we determined that we were going to be doing a natural process coffee for a brewer's competitor. And one of our head employees accidentally pulped that coffee, and then we're like, okay, well, let's continue the fermentation a little bit. It ended up being a banger of a coffee. It blew your socks off. That person actually took it to competition and did very well with it.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Paparelli, co-founder of M-Cultivo, and welcome back to the Cupping Table podcast, where the best coffee producers and buyers share their stories, insights, and outlook on the specialty coffee space. Our guest today is Kevin Doyle, the co-founder of Mikava, a vertically integrated operation with 2 6-hectare farms in the coffee growing triangle of the Colombian Andes. Kevin grew up in a coffee shop, moved to Colombia, and has a self-described personal obsession with fermentation. Him and his father draw influence from the wine industry to produce some incredible coffee. This includes a record-breaking 92.71 COE winner in 2019. We will talk all about that and more today. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
I'm glad to be here. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too. This is our first time meeting, and we came to the podcast, for everybody listening, we came to the podcast matching flannels. So I think we've got really good vibes going right now. So anybody who's listening should turn on to see the quality of our matching outfits. But Kevin, we start these podcasts with the same question for everybody, and that is, what's the best cup of coffee that you've had recently?
It was just a week ago or so. It was a geisha from our Marsesia farm. It was a washed hybrid process. And it was super complex. A lot of lavender and Jamaica notes with some complex citrus notes of like bergamot. And then it had kind of like a finish of some berries and some blackberry.
What's a washed hybrid? I don't know if I've heard that term
It's a
before.
name that we dubbed. It used to be called double phase, but then it was kind of, all right, well, let's just do one name. And so we settled on hybrid. It is a coffee that starts off as a natural, carbonic maceration natural, and we go through a duration of fermentation. And then at a certain pH level, we'll pulp that, depulp it, and then continue fermentation until it's at the right levels that we are looking for, and then we'll lightly wash it and dry it under shade cloth.
So it's kind of I guess hybrid because it's a partial natural, like it's not a fully dried natural. You're just kind of
Right. Yeah. So
letting.
it is a fully it starts fermentation as a natural and we interrupt our natural fermentation and then change gears and go into a wash process.
Yeah, we had a conversation with a producer in Costa Rica, Montecope, and they kind of stumbled upon a simple processing method, very unscientific. Just basically, they didn't have the labor or the resources to get the coffee into process right away in their micro mill, and so they left the coffee overnight to basically allow for labor to come in the morning and then be able to process the coffee. And what they found was that kind of overnight cool exposure, light natural fermentation added a lot to the cup. Was it a similar story here for you guys on how you stumbled upon that, or was this more of a intentional pursuit?
One point in time, it was an accident. We determined that we were going to be doing a natural process coffee for a brewer's competitor. And one of our head employees accidentally pulped that coffee, and then we're like, okay, well, let's continue the fermentation a little bit because the coffee, once pulped, still has a lot of mucilage. You can't really just put it out to dry. It really complicates the process with cleaning and milling here because we do it all in house. And it ended up being a banger of a coffee. It blew your socks off. That person actually took it to competition and did very well with it. So we decided to do some more experimental trials, and it turned out to be a, a process that we've put into our menu. It's very floral, and super complex with various citrus notes and floral notes, and then it kind of finishes off with a hint of berries at the end. It's been a winner for us. Pierre and Jordan both took this coffee and won with it in their Turkish Ibrik division in their brewers.
Amazing. I mean, I love that story of so much in coffee sort of happens by accident, and then you kind of backwards dial it in.
Right.
It's like a lot of cuppings, a lot of roasting, a lot of brewing, a lot of just trying to figure out. Okay, we had this accidental amazing occurrence, and now we have to figure out actually what happened there, and then we can kind of fine tune within that framework and that process to figure out. Okay, well, actually, the pH needs to be at this level at this time to kind of move it through the process. Sounds like it's a lot of that going on. And you guys are processing. I mean, you guys have these 2 6-acre farm or six, yeah. Is it 6 hectare farms? Is that right? Um,
Two six, 2 6 hectare farms.
and so you guys aren't process. These are, I mean, you have a micro mill operation, I'm guessing, to process that coffee. You're not doing tremendous volume. This is unusual in Colombia itself to build an operation like this. I would guess. Can you talk us through kind of the building of those 2 farms and kind of establishing the mechanics of those micro mills in 2 separate locations to produce amazing coffee?
Well, we don't have much. Our micro mills are very basic, um, and we have a pulper and fermentation tanks. We use stainless steel tanks, and then also we have sealable plastic buckets, food grade buckets, that we ferment in, and the drying for us is super important. And so in 2016, I took a year off and I came down from the US and we built this Marquesina, which is known as kind of like a solar dryer for us to dry our coffee in, with raised beds. And that's worked out really well for the coffee. So all of our coffee comes back to our farm in Marsella, where we'll dry the coffees. But for us, we don't produce a lot. So each day is a lot for us, and we'll have various levels of quality. So there's a lot. There's probably about anywhere from 4 to 6 lots every single day during harvest that we will individually evaluate. And so it it is a labor of love, and very very small processing facilities and very basic, because we started off as just focusing on naturals and naturals only. We
Mhm.
felt that there was more depth and more body within the naturals, in which there is for us. So we focused on naturals, and then a few years ago, discovered that we have a winner for our wash process, and it's done really well for us.
Was the natural process for you all just kind of the most authentic representation of coffee? Was that part of your ethos that you had to break away from?
Maybe Dad
Or
beat
was
both.
it just by the nature of building a small mill, it's just easier to do naturals when you start out?
It was Dad's passion. He loved naturals. It was Dad's ethos. It was a challenge. It's not easy to do naturals in Colombia with high
Mm.
humidity. So we had to invest in a facility that reduces humidity, maximizes airflow, reduces UV light, and slow and long drying processes. Some of our naturals can take a month to dry.
Wow.
And so when
And
we
that's
when we first
that's in a
when we
solar
first started,
dryer.
yeah, right. When we first started, we dealt a lot with fungus and mold when fermenting,
Mhm.
but we've noticed that the trick is for us using CO2 gas and macerating our cherries in an anaerobic state reduces the amount of bad bacteria that grows with air. And so that completely eliminated the major problem with mold afterwards drying. And so not only does CM add sweetness and complexity to the cup, carbonic maceration makes it a lot easier to dry the coffee if you're processing natural and you're slow drying it.
Yeah, can you explain? I always get caught up in some of these definitions, especially in Colombia, because some of this gets so, hotly debated, right? People throw around different fermentation terms: co-fermentation, infusion, yeast inoculation. I feel like carbonic maceration can be one of these, and anaerobic fermentation certainly can be one of these. Like people misuse the word anaerobic, and they call things that probably aren't anaerobic. Can you give your definition of carbonic maceration? I'd be curious of just how you guys would describe that from Mikava's point of view.
For us, our carbonic maceration process, when we say that this coffee went through all stages of carbonic maceration, from the moment that it was picked, the cherry was washed, and then it has a chance to macerate in a sealed environment that has been injected with CO2 gas. The CO2 gas is heavier than air, so the air will naturally be removed from that environment of fermentation. So it's important to have an enclosed, whether it's a bag, a bucket, a tank, something to enclose and keep the CO2 from escaping through a breeze of air, so to speak. But when we speak about anaerobic, if you're not using CO2 gas to ferment your coffees, in a short period of time, 12, 24 hours, in a sealed environment without any CO2 gas, it starts aerobic with air and then naturally becomes CO2. It naturally becomes CM, carbonic maceration or carbonic maceration, because with fermentation, your cherries are naturally putting off CO2 as they ferment.
And these are for you guys. You're talking about incredibly small lots. I mean, nano lots, I guess what you would call it for most farms. What are the size lots that you're generally doing in these different environments, different processing methods that you're doing kind of 4 to 6 a day on
In a day, we're picking 200 to 300 kilos of cherry, which will equate to maybe 12 to 24 kilos of coffee, and once it's finished.
per
So there's
lot?
about a 90% reduction. It takes about 7 to 8 kilos to produce 1 kilo of coffee. So yeah, we're very small. And It's why we've discovered really, really nice coffees, but we may only have 5 or 6 kilos of this particular lot. It's a winner, and it'll be used primarily for brewers. With a barista, it's been our experience that they'll want 15, 20, 25 kilos for a barista, and we've supplied that a few times, but our success has been really with the brewers, because some of our coffees are pretty funky, but we have a couple different processes that's very clean and origin oriented, and then we have ones that are a little bit more on the borderline of very subtle wininess, fermented fruits, and things like that.
Mm.
And those natural processed coffees do well with brewers. So yeah, very small lots. On the off season, our lot size will be 5 kilos, and then some of our on the during our season, our lots will be anywhere from 12 to 24 kilos of coffee once finished.
When you started your first farm operation in Colombia, did you have an idea with a small farm like that that this is going to be the market for this coffee? We're going to design this for kind of brewers competitions, and we're going to grow a brand around competition coffees and nano lots. I mean, was that kind of in the back of your head? I mean,
No,
how did you find
no,
that market? How did you figure that out? What was that journey
it
like?
found it found us, really. I mean, with during that time when we first started, we planted our first farm in 2013. When we first started, Dad was experimenting and coming out with innovative processing, just anything that he could think of. And then we tried to replicate and replicate and replicate what we liked, what he liked, um, what was favorite to him, and he fell for the naturals. It was a lot of trial and error for the first few years, and we started this as a hobby. We didn't think about starting this as a business. We had no end goal. It was just kind of a hobby for the first few years. And in 2017, 2018 is kind of when people started finding us and started finding our coffees, and providing a lot of feedback for us. And we took that feedback and implemented a few things and tr- did our kind of twist on it, and it's been great. I really like experimenting every single year to kind of come up with how are we going to take what the farm is giving us right now, what quality of coffee, and how can we improve that and elevate that to be the best cup of coffee that you've had. And we've heard a lot from people that this is the best coffee. And so that, um, having our coffee connect us with people who want to take our coffee and share it across the world, that's probably the most inspirational and the most motivational to continue. We've had a lot of down times. We've nearly thrown in the towel a couple of times. Super difficult, but I mean, we're in a good spot right now, and we just want to continue focusing on excellence and quality and getting our coffee across the world. And you know, it's still, yes, it's a business now, but it's still a hobby for us in terms of playing around. And every single year, it's what are we going to do this year? You know,
That's what I was gonna ask next on that, is kinda hearing a little bit of that journey. What was the moment that you guys realized that, this kinda wasn't a hobby anymore, you were more all in?
in 2018, we submitted for the Cup of Excellence, um, and we made it past the national judges to going to international judges, and we got a phone call confirming, "Hey, do you have 250 kilos of this coffee?" No, we don't. I'm sorry. Well, you'll have to. We were told that we would have done very well in 2018, and so that's when we kind of started to really sharpen the tool belt and submit coffee and make sure that we had the quantity required for 2019, and we did. So in the early stages of 2018 is kind of when we found out that we've got something really special, and then we started sending our coffees to people that have shown interest and contacted us through Instagram. Back in the day, Dad was great. Dad really was awesome with Instagram and connecting with people, and getting small amounts of coffee to people. And him hearing that feedback from friends of ours in Colombia to people abroad, they were telling us that we have something truly special. So we submitted again for 2019 of the Cup of Excellence, and we ended up submitting. I th- don't quote me on this, but I think the first. No, it can't be the first natural, but we were the first people to take first place with a first coffee that was processed naturally. Um, and then on top of that, to add, we're currently record holders of having the highest score uh, to date with a natural processed coffee.
Mm.
Because in that time it was really unheard of that natural processed coffees were of any desire, they were good. It's very difficult to process natural coffees because of our geographical location. We're in Colombia. I mean, we're in the middle of the rainforest here, and we're trying to dry cherries. At that moment, 2018, 2019, we knew that we had something special, and that we needed to make this a business.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a moment in time too, I would imagine, where, a hobby requires so much energy, effort. I mean, to even phrase something as a hobby, I mean, it requires so much energy, effort, You have to have time for your full-time job, right, on the side, and it requires so much investment. I mean, you've kind of got a budget for a hobby budget, right? I'm guessing that changed for you guys as well pretty drastically in a move to Colombia, starting two farm operations, both your dad being there full time. What was that transition like? That we're no longer living in the United States. We're gonna do this full time and you know put all our resources into it.
Both Dad and I had some time to kind of get accustomed to Colombia. It's a new culture. It's a new environment. I grew up in the coffee. I grew up in my father's coffee shop in McMinnville, Oregon. The coffee shop was Cornerstone Coffee Roasters. Before I was born, Dad had a little coffee cart in the mid to early 80s, and he was brewing espresso and Fred Meyer and bookstores in the Portland region. In the early 90s, 91, he opened up a cafe, and this evolved into a roasting operation. So he focused on wholesale roasting and a coffee shop, and then that evolved into having a drive-through. And so it was a pretty large operation. In 2005, he decided to sell it, take a leave of retirement, and travel the world. He went to various countries, including Costa Rica and Panama, and in Colombia. He fell in love with Colombia. Traveled for 7-8 years, and it was like, Dad's always got to be moving, right? My father, Paul, is one that is dedicated to his work and his passion for coffee, and wanted to grow coffee as a hobby and to see what could come of it. And so he purchased the farm in Marsella in 2013. Him and I took a few trips to Panama to do some sourcing. We sourced our Colombian coffee, Panamanian Gesha, from Panama, and we grow it at our first farm. During that process, we noticed that we had quite a bit too much, and we were stuck between a pretty good hard place, and we asked ourselves, what do we do with this coffee? Do we get rid of it? Do we sell it? Let's come and buy a new farm. I was in the States that at that point in time. I was in sales, and I said, let me help you. I came down to do kind of my own trip to Colombia, and that was in 2013. And really, it was a complete shock to me. It was a new experience. I loved it, right? Dad and I decided to plant this coffee that we got from Panama in Marsella. And then in 2016, when I was here more often, I was taking yearly trips for a few months at a time. In 2016, we decided we needed to have another farm to plant this excess of coffee. I went back to the U.S. And sold some of our assets, sold my vehicle, sold his truck, and we ended up purchasing another farm in Santuario. And in Santuario, that farm was completely planted in 2016. And then in 2019, we had our first, probably our first full crop that we were able to submit to the Cup of Excellence. And so that's kind of that transition from me being in the States, trying to help abroad, trying to sell our coffee to roasters in the U.S. During that time. So I was kind of in the background. I wasn't always at the farm. Dad was the one that was at the farm 100% of the time, managing both farms, making weekly trips to Santuario to go and get the coffee and bring it back to dry on our raised beds. And I was the one up in the U.S. trying to make connections and sell coffee, all the while trying to maintain a full job. During my time in the U.S., when there was big projects going on, I would leave my sales job and take a hiatus for 3 to 6 months and work on a project, complete a project, go back, get back into sales, and then come back. And then, in 2022 is when I decided to, what, we're at a point. I'm gonna come down to Colombia full time and start making this into something that can grow and that can expand and a worldwide product.
You sound like you were an awful employee, sales employee, sales guy. I mean, somebody who quits and takes 3 to 6 months off. What were you in sales for? Just out of
I
curiosity.
was I was in car sales. I was in automotive car sales. I
Okay.
went to school to
Yeah.
be I went to school to become a mechanic for high end luxury cars, and then I decided that maybe I'll try this sales thing, and I ended up being pretty good at it. So it was pretty easy for me to leave and then come back and then get another job, right? Because
Yeah.
I had a pretty good resume to where I would just show a resume to someone and, oh yeah, when can you start? Car sales to me came kind of easy and naturally. Sales came naturally, but I think for the reason I think that I love to talk and I love to talk to people. And one of the things where I was like, it kind of clicked. I can do the same thing with coffee. There's so many people in this industry that you know want to know where the coffee is coming from and who is making this coffee. And so it's a really easy segue to meet new people. So our philosophy, our motto is that coffee connects people, and we believe that full heartedly.
Had you worked with your dad? Well, I guess you worked with him on the side, but not necessarily full time. I'm curious if you worked with your dad before, if there was any kind of, hey, I'm transition from, hey, I'm helping my dad out to, hey, we're kind of partners, co-founders of this thing, and we're really in this together. I know there's a lot of folks out there, especially in the coffee business, coffee farmers. It's this generational business of kind of, hey, I'm kind of working with my dad, but I'm kind of starting to run this thing as he's starting not to run this thing, and that dynamic of wrestling with that relationship. Did you have any trouble transitioning from sales from to coffee farming for that reason? Just kind of relationally being partners with your dad through this thing, or was that a pretty easy transition?
No, not an easy transition. It's been it. There's been there are ups and downs with everything. Um, uh, Naturally, I can see that eventually dad will want to, retire and do some traveling and do PR for Mikava. And that's that's dad's hobby as well, and passion is to travel. I think with having the farms, he hasn't been able to do much traveling. Thankfully, he's been able to recently have the excuse to, oh, I need to go to Milan because our coffee's there, right? So that's been rewarding for me to see him be able to travel and enjoy the fruit of the accomplishments. Um, but yeah, in the back of my mind, I needed to be down here, and I needed to be a part of this business because not only did we have a really cool product and a really cool story, but there comes a point of time where you got to help your dad out, right? You got to be a
Yeah.
part of the family business. I grew up in the coffee shop. I enjoyed coffee from a young age, and realizing that coffee is not only sales, but you got to have a green thumb. I had a green thumb before I had my own gardens and did my own fermentations at home. So it was kind of a natural kind of it clicked, and it was a connection with me as well. So dad and I have had a fun time, but we've had some rough times too. In 2016, I think I woke up and said, okay, yeah, this is something that I'm gonna need to be serious about. We had a lightning strike hit our building that was originally constructed to. It's a larger size building to house guests and to have a place for people to come and stay for a longer period of time at a coffee farm. That has not been able to be finished because in 2016 we had a lightning strike hit our building, not twice, but twice in the same week. Um,
Wow.
and so when they say lightning doesn't strike the same place twice, it does, and we have proof of it. So
What happened?
we've had to rebuild, and we lost all of our coffee. The firefighters kind of rehydrated our natural process coffee, and so it's been kind of had to start over in 2016. Um, so it's been there's been some ups and downs, but now more recently, Dad's been more like, "Here you go, son. Take care of this and take care of that," and it's been my pleasure.
Was that it's just a horrible metaphor, but that lightning bolt moment, right? Where things kind of change or you have this idea that I have to be all in. Did you Was that the moment where it was, obviously you had too much geisha, so you had to buy a new farm, but was this another one of those, hey, we have to double down and we have to reinvest in everything. We really have to pool resources around this and make this more of a viable thing that we're fully dedicated to? Was that one of those moments in that, or it just that was just part of the journey where it just kind of became difficult? It's just one of those things you have to power through.
It was definitely an eye opening moment because a few years prior, every single year I'd be coming down and helping, so I already had that emotional connection to the coffee and to the land here and to our team, and couldn't just let it go, right? So we persevered, we pushed through, and God rewarded us with in 2018, 2019. It was definitely a moment. It was definitely a moment
That
to
it was that same
reflect.
farm. So 2016, your farm burns down. I mean, was anything salvageable? And then you had that coffee 3 years later in the COE. That coffee in COE is as the record breaker natural. Is that how that went?
Yeah, so in the facility that burnt down, we transported our coffee from Santuario to Marseille. It wasn't that exact coffee, but it was the coffee that was lost, was from the Marseille farm, in the Pueblo of Marseille. But in 2018 is kind of when we got our first real harvest, from our farm in Santuario. So no, it was a different coffee. It was a different coffee that we had.
Were the plants damaged at all in the fire? The actual,
No, so
the
it was
actual.
the lightning struck, and it caught our roof, and our trusses on fire. And so that's the only thing that caught fire. But what lightning does is it tries to find and it ground itself as fast as possible, and
Mhm.
within routing itself through wooden columns, it completely exploded about 23 columns that we had to
Oh my
replace.
god.
Had to redo all the electrical, the roof, all that's done now, but now it's into the finishing stages, finishing the second floor because it's a two-story building. So right now,
Wow.
the first floor is about 80%, 90% complete. The second floor is incomplete.
What happened when it struck again? I mean, was it already the damage had been done?
So it's about maybe 30 meters or so in length. And so the first lightning strike was at one end, and then the second lightning strike was at the other end. We were in the middle of doing, trying to put a temporary roof on when the second lightning strike happened. Um, and unfortunately, no one was hurt. There was some aftermath of it for months. When you're near a lightning strike, I've been told by my dad that you lose kind of your equilibrium, kind of little drunk for a few weeks afterwards. I never knew that.
So he was at the farm when the lightning struck the building. He was
He
there.
was.
And
Yeah,
then he was there when it struck again. Nobody
yeah,
hurt. I'm sure it was hard to hire workers to work on that building after that for a period of time. They must not
definitely.
have thought they must thought the thing was cursed.
We had some workers leave and not come back.
I don't blame them. I mean, it's sort of this kind of thing where you take up prayer after a couple moments like that, I think.
A lot.
Well, I'm glad nobody was hurt. That's an unbelievable story, and I'm sure that's you hear stories of perseverance, but that is a unique one for sure. So you guys planted geisha initially from Panama. Did you get that from a particular farm in Panama? Anybody that was generous enough to give you that coffee?
Yeah, a very, very kind gentleman. If he's watching or if he ever watches this, um, he'll know who he is. It was great. It- we contacted him. He was super overwhelmingly accepting. Right?
Hmm.
Absolutely, I'll help you out. Because of the first couple trips to Panama, we did not succeed. The germination, the seeds were not appropriate for germination. And then in our third time going to Panama, we met a very reputable person there that was more than kind to help us out. But he did ask for us not to ever disclose where it came from.
Where it came from. Yeah. It's understandable. I figured that might be the case. And you have since then planted Bourbon, Typica, Ethiopian heirlooms, and a couple other varieties. What why move? You see a lot of people just do geisha.
Yep.
Hey, I got a small plant, I have a small farm or a couple small farms. I am exclusively going to focus on geisha because I believe so much in geisha. Ethiopian heirlooms sort of fit within that Ethiopian heirlooms, dwarf geisha, that sort of mold. Why? But Bourbon, Typica, Sudan Rume, like why these? Why did you branch out to new varietals?
Good question. When we first started out, Dad really liked Bourbon and Typica, and that was one of the first crops that we planted. We're now after 12, 13 years phasing that Bourbon out. It has a nice cup. Um, it it's not some Dad wanted to plant some of his favorite coffees to begin with, and
Mm-hmm.
then in doing this and being down here for quite a while, he was able to discover other coffees. Um, and the local federation here, Seni Cafe, provided us with the Ethiopian heirloom varietals. And we have two Ethiopian heirlooms. Don't know what they are. They're just an heirloom Ethiopia, and they've done really well. They've won some national awards with brewers. So, and they have a very interesting, very spicy cup profile. So those are the ones that we keep and that are some of our favorites. Our Gesha is really the kind of the focal point for us. We have over 30,000 trees of Gesha and Ethiopian. We may combined of those two varieties, we may have 1,000 trees. With Sudan Rume, we have about 800 trees. So these are coffees that we really enjoyed and liked, but we wanted to kind of see how well they do with on our farms and our terroir before investing and expanding, buying more land or renting more land to plant X varietal. So a couple other uh, coffees that we've really liked over the few years that we've been tasting and seeing about growing other varietals is Sidra and some Pink Bourbon. We really like a natural Pink Bourbon for just kind of like an everyday coffee. And Sidra has been a favorite of ours for the last few years. And so for us, it's not necessarily we have to focus just on Gesha. Um, uh, we like the cup profile, and we find that emotion, that connection, that passion to cultivate other cultivars and see how they do.
Yeah, it sounds like you're at some point you might move away from the Bourbon Typica, replant that as pink Bourbon. um, sidra, something else that as you kind of want to explore new things and move into more. But you hear this story all the time with farmers where they'll plant, a geisha variety and have moderate success, and then the whole thing will be wiped out, year one, right? And finding that variety. Was your farm already in production when you came upon it? Did you already know it could produce amazing coffee, or did you kind of get very lucky that it just was the right ecosystem for geisha to grow?
No, we did more. We researched and did more into soil analyses and what kind of temperature, how much rainfall, what's the climate like year round. Those are the things that we looked into more so than what type of coffee that there was on the farm at that point in time. Our farm in Marsesia was actually an earthworm farm. It wasn't planted in coffee, and it wasn't used for cattle. So we had virgin soil, uncompacted soil. So it was pretty much corn, and it was other crops that are locally produced here and sold at outlets here. But it was an earthworm farm. They were cultivating and making reproducing earthworms for resale.
Did you have to find these farms? I mean, who did you, are you driving around? You just stumble upon them? Do you have kind of a real estate person that's out hunting for you? I mean, how do you
Yeah,
even
yeah.
begin to do this?
When you're in the town city square and you're having a tinto you're conversing with friends that you travel and go see, you say, "Hey, I'm looking for a farm. Do you know of any farms available? I'll give you a tip if I buy the farm." And so it was all word of mouth. Now we have Facebook, right? Now people are posting their farms for sale on Facebook. Back then, for us, for foreigners, it was not easy, and so we had to have help. We had to have local help, and so we spread the word, and it spreads quickly. It was it was it was amazing at how many people came back and said, "Hey, I've got a guy. I've got a guy. I've got this guy. I've got this farm." Dad originally went and looked at dozens of farms, and one of the things that really attracted him to the first one is the historical colonial pueblo that Marsesia is known to be now and
Mm.
is certified colonial. And so it's a beautiful town, beautiful cathedral. If you ever have a chance to come and visit, we're open arms. We will welcome you. And Marsesia is a nice place to stay. But in Santuario, a few years later, that farm was planted in a traditional variety. I think it was Colombia, so Variedad Colombia. Well, we knew what we were doing with it. We needed to plant geisha, so that one had to be replanted. But our farm in Marsesia uh, did not ever have coffee, to our knowledge.
And with these two farms, you entered them into competition with COE. First competition with COE that you had cupped was 2018. Is that right? Where you had the
Yeah, we
volume.
yeah we submitted our sample for 2018. From encouragement from our friends with Insignia Coffee, and they persuaded us to be a part of this competition. They were judges at that point in time, and so they kind of gave us some insight, and it was a great coffee. And then we get that phone call. Yeah, we withdraw because we just don't have that quantity
You don't have the
required.
volume, right?
Don't have that
But you're
volume.
branching off. I mean, it seems like you're branching off a little bit this year into more of these. Is it fair to say that into this private auction segment? Um, and trying different types of auctions, being invited to different types of outlets. I mean, what brought your attention to these new auctions and got you excited about that?
After the Cup of Excellence, Dad, eh, eh, Dad and I, we were talking and like, man, we should do one of our own auctions one day, and years later, Vicente with ClearPath comes out and brings out his team and visits our farm, and we create friendship, and we get to know each other, and he invites us into the Colombian Legends. We submitted a coffee there, and it's our first auction that we're providing a coffee to. A couple months goes by, and I was introduced with Tyler with M-Cultivo, and he gave me the rundown, the formula and the history, and how auctions can represent special coffees, right? Um, and it was something that it's been of interest of ours, but the logistics of it was not. We weren't able to obtain the logistics, but thanks to M Cultivo, seems like you guys really focus on that and have created a really good platform that works. Um, and we're excited to be a part of it. Good results, bad results. We're just happy to be a part of an auction and have some of our best coffees a part of that.
Yeah, really excited about the Columbia Legends. Really excited about having you guys involved in the Dubai auction as well in January. The Columbia Legends auction is a little bit, I mean, it's a unique one. Vicente, did he have to sell that to you, that concept to you at all? Or did that seem to be sort of just a more of a natural progression for Colombian coffees that these producers, of course, would run their own auction? This just makes sense.
Yeah, um, I thanked Vicente with ClearPath. He saw something that was missing from Colombia, right? Here you have Panama and other countries doing auctions and really showing various coffees from producers near and far that are doing a great job and that have some truly unique products. And so when Vicente called me up and wanted to do an auction, it was like, yeah, absolutely. Would love to be a part of it. Um, so one of the things I told him, I was like, Colombia needs this, right? We need
Mm.
to make this more of a reoccurrence. Hopefully, we can have some great success to where more people will want to be involved, and many roasters will discover people that have never been discovered before. There's a lot of good coffees out there, and they're they're selling it because they have to sell it. They have to meet payroll. They have to put food on the table that day. So they're taking great coffee and great potential for an auction probably, and selling at the cooperatives. So I think it's a great thing to have auctions for Colombia in general, but for all producing countries.
It seems like, as with everything, timing is so important, right? I think it does feel like we kind of just woke up in 2024, 2025, and wow, there's just a lot of amazing Colombian private coffee producers doing nano lots and these really interesting methods, from La Negrita and their whoosh whoosh and, immaculate cleaning methods and fermentate, to you guys, to I mean, Immaculata, of course. I mean, just on and on. And the list on Columbia Legends is unbelievable, having you guys in there too. You got to mention Mikava. But that didn't really exist. It doesn't feel like, 15, 20 years ago. Certainly, I mean, maybe even 15 years ago when you guys started. As you said, it seemed like things were going through cooperatives. There was probably some washing stations, aggregated at dry mill level, then export. This feels a little bit like almost a new phenomenon that was, a 10-year overnight success story waiting to happen. I mean, does it feel that way to you?
I think that Colombia is being discovered. I think years past. Um, I don't think that there were many eyes, maybe potentially. But now that Colombia is being discovered and known for exceptional coffees, some of the best coffees in the world are coming out of Colombia. It's instilled motivation in many others to sharpen up and
Mm.
educate themselves and learn more. It seems like monthly there are uh, classes being put on, and companies like clear path that are encouraging and helping producers elevate their own coffees. We've done a little bit of that, and have partnered up with a couple of nearby farmers, provided coffee to them to grow. One being my father-in-law. So we have another third farm coming up that's been planted, and so we are slowly getting involved into that communication and into that relationship building, and passing on some of our knowledge that we've researched to for them, so that they can do they can have a coffee that they're proud of and that they can export, that's complex and unique
Mm.
to that farm that they have and to their processing. So yeah, I think it is. It's it's definitely become, in the past 10 years, in the past decade, I think that I think those producers were already there, and they already had that passion, and they could be a third generational farmer. But when 25-year-old Jose takes over dad's farm, he may be coming in at it with a different approach, and I think that that's just amazing, right? Coming in with
Hmm.
it more of a different type of mindset, and I've been able to meet some of those people that the farm's been handed down for generations, and they're wanting to experiment with different varieties and different methods of processing, to showcase their terroir. I think that's amazing.
I mean, there's obviously the experimentation element to things. There's a different type of flow of information as well. It's more of a global flow of information. It's just this new generation grew up with the internet. People are thinking about coffee businesses as international brands, not just a coffee farm, and thinking more on that level. But I think the other thing that came out of it that you see with this Columbia Legends auction is that's so important is this kind of collaborative community element, right? We've talked about this with other producers, but this idea of co-opetition and the ability to say, okay, yeah, we can share, we can knowledge share, we can share experience, we might share seeds, we might share coffees, we might share a cupping table. We can be great friends, but we can also loosely be in competition with each other to produce the best coffee in Colombia, and have clients find us maybe or pay a higher price for ours than yours, and all that kind of stuff can coexist. And it's really a complicated thing to set up, but I do think it takes folks like you guys, folks like Vicente and ClearPath, to kind of start that ball rolling and realize that this can be a good thing for everyone. It doesn't just have to be a zero sum game where one Columbia farmer wins and the other Columbia farmer loses. And this, I do agree with you. This could be kind of the impetus to that. More of this should occur.
Yeah, one thing here in Colombia is that everyone's your neighbor type of culture,
Mm.
and the sharing of knowledge is more forthcoming, and easier to come by. So we've helped out folks with, you know various types of seeds, and helping them with processing knowledge, and some of our own experiments to see if that works for them. And it's turned out great for them. So I think it does have. I think the culture here has definitely an impact, in that where people are more open to sharing what they've learned, and helping the other person out.
It's
Definitely.
so important. I mean, we've seen it over and over again. The culture and the community, you can't really objectively put a value on it. I mean, it's really hard to kind of say, okay, the monetary value of the Colombian culture and coffee is X. I mean, it's just an impossibility, right? But it is kind of the secret sauce. I mean, you really do need, if you have everybody siloed, competing, unwilling to share knowledge, you don't end up with these thriving coffee pockets. Like you said, this coffee triangle in the Colombian Andes. Why is there a coffee triangle there? A lot of that is obviously the terroir, but a lot of that is just the culture and the community that enables that to occur, and inviting people into that are coffee buyers and others that just want to learn how this is working, and then that kind of blossoms and blooms into this knowledge share. It's just this amazing thing where other people probably do have better varieties and better terroir than you, but they don't have the culture, they don't have the community to kind of build that and market that to the world and invite people to be a part of it. So it sounds like you picked the right spot. A lot of luck involved, and the timing seems right for you guys too, which is unbelievable that all of those things would intersect for someone like Mikava, someone like you and your dad.
Yeah, a little bit of luck, always helps too. But couldn't agree with you more. 100%. It's it's something. It's definitely something interesting to witness and to see. The majority, pretty much everyone here, is how can I help, right? And so it's definitely a even though the coffee industry here is in Colombia is huge, there's a definitely a tight niche of people, and like you said, we may see them as competitors, but we do exchange some information and help each other out. Absolutely.
You kind of have a thesis on this. I'd love to get your reaction to it. Tell me where I'm right or where I'm wrong. And I think Colombia is a great example here, right? We have some of the largest coffee exporters in the world, some of the largest coffee production in the world. Um, True commercial focus, coffee traders, all of those things. It feels like what you guys are doing is almost a different product. Like it's a different, I'd describe it as almost a different asset class. Like there's this luxury coffee segment, say, and then there's sort of specialty coffee, and then there's commercial, there's maybe borderline specialty that is, consumed in high volumes, and then there's pure commercial commodity, like we just we got to sell it at the commodity price, and it can have a certain amount of defects, and that's okay, we'll just push it on. I mean, do you feel that on the ground there in segmenting farmers, or is everybody kind of a coffee farmer and we're all kind of neighbors? I mean, I'm just curious if the market's expression of those products actually matches the reality on the ground of the segmentation of those groups that are producing it.
Those groups do definitely exist, and it's felt here as well. Um, you know, it, we've had farmers, we've had other producers come and visit our farm, and we've opened our doors and showed them what we're doing and how we're growing our coffee. And they've expressed to us that they've recently grown Gesha, and it's it's nice to go back and forth with what works and what doesn't work with caring for those trees, and what doesn't work and what works with processing. And they've been able to take that information back to them and implement it, put their own spin on it. And one I can think of now, in Tolima, he came out 3 times to come out and visit our farm. Loved our coffee so much. He was a third generation farmer. He was 22 years old and ended up taking first place in a regional coffee competition and auctioned his coffee off in a local Colombian auction. And so that to me is super cool. Congratulated him. And it was cool to witness that. So what we're speaking of is it's true. People do share knowledge and people do help out others. And there is definitely a difference with the producer, I think, and their motivation, what motivates them and what they're looking to accomplish. If they're looking to accomplish having the best coffee and super complex coffees, um, and a coffee that is very desirable, and in demand, then I think that those new generations that are coming into the coffee farming kind of know the typical route, and going through local cooperatives and selling my coffee there is just not an option, because for decades coffee farming here has been super difficult. So what's the other option? The other option is get better and find the varietal that you enjoy and that you love, and process it well, handle it with love and care, um, and monitor each individual process, have some OCD with it, and look, he took first place in a competition. I'm not saying that, it's all from us, but no, it was all him, right? And so I think that that's just amazing. I think that that's awesome to have the younger generation coming into this and reviving, so to speak, the coffee industry here, and what makes, exotic luxury coffee, just what it's meant to be for, a special occasion, a coffee to share with someone, um, or just the everyday cup of coffee that you have to drink this type of coffee, because you're not wanting just a regular Starbucks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Justin for Longboard said it well when he said there's coffees that a lot of people have conversations over amazing coffees. There are certain coffees that have the ability to stop the conversation and actually become the conversation. And I think, seeing what you guys are doing, producers like yourselves that are able to share, collaborate, it's more of a characteristic of the person that's, trying to improve the operation. The fact that that Colombian producer would actually come to you, ask questions, trying to figure out processing, it's probably a good indication of success that there will be success in the future anyway, because they'll just figure it out. I mean, they're open to it and they'll kind of stumble, even if they stumble their way through and they don't do everything perfect, they're willing to ask for help and they're willing to learn and produce something amazing, right? Which is great to
Yeah,
see.
and the other cool thing is that the word of mouth spreads so quickly here, and so that particular person will be able to help others in their department and in their region. So it's a really cool thing. I love what Justin said there. I love that quote.
Yeah, I'm sure I got it horribly wrong, but I'll send you the actual quote if I get it. But he was beautiful. He was beautiful human being.
Yeah, but
Very sad to lose him this
you
year.
have conversations over coffee. That would be send me that quote. That would be that's a good quote. I'll remember that.
I will. It was great. Well, I appreciate it, Kevin. You and your father, Paul, will be in the Columbia Legends auction on December 1st. I think I have that date right. So 1st through the 3rd. People should absolutely register for that auction. I think sample sets are for sale at the timing of recording this, but they'll probably be gone by the time this is released, unfortunately. So if you miss a sample set, find a cupping in your area. They will be promoted on ClearPass Instagram and on M-Cultivo's Instagram as well. Mikava will also be in the Dubai auction with us, among an incredible set of producers are coming together for this from all over the world. And Mikava is going to be one of the representatives from Colombia with their carbonic maceration natural geisha, which I have not tried yet, which I'm really excited to taste here in the next probably 2 weeks. I'll get to taste it. We'll roast it up and have some. We'll start doing cuppings. We'll start promoting sample sets. But go to mcultivo.com. Go to Columbia Legends, register for that auction. The Dubai auction will be up. Register for that auction. You'll get some updates on that. Follow Mikava as well. Kevin and Paul, their work is incredible. I enjoyed so much learning about you guys in preparation for this conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future as you replant as you plant Pink Bourbon and Cedra and new varietals and keep fine tuning and dialing your processing methods. Just well done, guys, and thank you so much for what you do to contribute to the coffee community in Colombia and worldwide.
Yeah, David, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks for having us on. Really excited to be part of these two auctions that M Cultivo is putting on, and it's provided me with a desire and an interest to want to select our coffees and do an auction yearly. What a great time chatting with you and talking with you. Thanks for getting to know us and spreading our message about Mikava and our history.
Absolutely, absolutely. More to come. Yeah, it's just the start of the conversation. We'll have a cup of coffee that'll stop the conversation, become the conversation next time we see each other. I'd love to do that too. But we will talk to you soon. We'll keep you updated as the auction comes along, and we'll keep the audience updated as well. But thanks again, Kevin, and we are out.